What if I told you that the world's two most powerful militaries are on the brink of direct confrontation? Not just in Ukraine, but at sea, in the air, and across the global stage. Could we be witnessing the early signs of a US-Russia war? Let's break this down. Welcome to the channel that brings you clear, honest, and in-depth global news every day. If you appreciate real facts and balanced insight, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It all began with a warning. US President Donald Trump issued an ultimatum to Russian President Vladimir Putin agreed to a ceasefire in Ukraine within 10 to 12 days or face sweeping new sanctions targeting Russia's oil and energy exports. Then came the fallout. On July 28th, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev responded publicly, saying Trump's ultimatum could push both nations toward war. He called the statement reckless and said it echoed Cold War nuclear threats. And the very next day, Trump doubled down. He announced he had ordered to US nuclear submarines to move closer to Russia. While the Pentagon described it as a routine deployment, many experts saw it as a major escalation, one that could increase the risk of miscalculation. Despite the rising tension, diplomacy is still alive, at least on paper. Back in February, Trump and Putin held a 90-minute phone call, agreeing to launch a new round of peace talks over Ukraine. Diplomats were assigned, meetings took place in Riyadh, London, and St. Petersburg, but none of it produced a breakthrough. On March 2nd, in London, the UK hosted a so-called Coalition of the Willing summit. The idea was to draft a unified peace proposal. The US participated, but emphasized that no peace could happen unless Russia stopped its attacks first. But instead of de-escalation, the violence only grew. On August 1st, Russia launched a missile strike on a prison and a maternity ward in Kyiv. More than 30 people died, including children. Ukraine's president called it terrorism. Germany responded by fast-tracking air defense systems to Ukraine. Back in Washington, lawmakers introduced the Sanctioning Russia Act of 2025. It proposes massive tariffs and heavy penalties on countries that keep buying Russian oil. The bill already has support from both major US parties. Meanwhile, Putin hasn't budged. He still insists that Ukraine must give up its NATO ambitions and withdraw from all occupied regions. Only then, he says, will a ceasefire be possible. So where does this leave us? Many analysts believe we're entering dangerous territory. Not just in Ukraine, but in the messaging, the nuclear signals, and the sharp language flying between Washington and Moscow. Trump is signaling that the US is back to using hard deterrence. Russia, on the other hand, seems prepared to match the threat. But not everyone believes this will lead to war. Some former diplomats, like John Bolton, argue this is classic Brinkmanship designed to force concessions without actual conflict. He says the key now is to maintain strong alliances and clear moral leadership. Still, what happens if things go one step further? One scenario is that Russia ramps up military action in Europe or the Arctic. Another possibility is that the US pulls support from NATO allies, giving Russia room to act more aggressively. The debate over whether NATO should offer Ukraine full membership remains a major flashpoint. And even if no bombs fall between Washington and Moscow, something big is shifting. We're seeing the rise of what some are calling a new axis of upheaval, a loose alliance between Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. Together, they're trying to challenge Western power and rewrite global rules. But the ones caught in the middle are the people. Ukrainian civilians face constant shelling. Children are dying in hospitals, families are burying loved ones. And aid organizations warn that starvation and trauma are becoming widespread. Let me ask you, do you think the US is truly prepared for a direct war with Russia? Or is all of this just a game of high-stakes pressure politics? Let me know what you think in the comments. I want to hear your perspective. Looking ahead, there are only two real outcomes. Either Russia compromises and diplomacy breaks through, or the threats and counter-threats push us closer to a direct confrontation. If nuclear signaling continues and sanctions start biting harder, both sides could feel trapped into escalation. This isn't just about policy, it's a test of how strong international order really is. Can global institutions hold the line, or are we seeing the start of a new, unstable, multipolar world? Thanks for sticking with us until the end. If this report gave you insight, tap like, share it with others, and subscribe for more daily updates on global conflict, diplomacy, and the stories that shape our future. Stay informed, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.